You're standing in your own driveway, breath clouding in the chilly morning air, watching total strangers haul boxes and heavy furniture toward your house, the one you built with your bare hands and years of sacrifice. It's surreal, like watching burglars work in broad daylight while everyone pretends it's normal. And there she is, your sister, standing in the middle of it all, clipboard in hand, barking orders like a general. "Careful with that dresser," she snaps at a mover. "That goes in our bedroom." That single word burns more than the cold wind. In her head, she truly believes it's hers. My name is Elena. I'm 34 years old. And this is the story of how my own family tried to take the home I spent 9 years building from scratch, and what I did to stop them. If you've ever watched people smile to your face while plotting to take what's yours, if you've ever been dismissed, discredited, or used, listen closely, because sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't destruction, it's standing your ground. Let's go back to where it all started. Picture a little girl, about 7 years old, with knees scraped raw and hands stained brown from dirt. That was me. My world wasn't made from video games or toys. It lived in the backyard, right there beneath an old oak tree with roots that twisted like secret tunnels. I'd spend hours crouched in the sun, dirt under my nails, reshaping the world one handful at a time. "Come inside and do something normal," my mom used to shout from the window. But normal to me meant small. The earth was limitless. The magic of making a single seed sprout, of seeing life emerge because I cared for it, was everything. By the time I turned 18, that love had taken root in me too deeply to ignore. Everyone around me expected I'd choose something practical for college. Business, nursing, maybe teaching. My dad even had a little speech ready about careers with stability. Instead, I announced that I was majoring in horticulture. You would have thought I'd announced I was joining the circus. "You can't make a living playing in dirt," my father said flatly. But I'd already pictured my future. Designing gardens, restoring public parks, building green spaces that lasted longer than paint or profit margins. So I went anyway. College was hard, but I loved every part of it, the good, the messy, and the backbreaking. While most of my classmates groaned through lectures on soil acidity and irrigation systems, I sat front row, scribbling notes like my life depended on it. Pest management? Fascinating. Mineral imbalance? A puzzle to solve. It felt like the more I learned, the more alive I became. After graduation, I worked for other companies, but passion doesn't blend well with greed. My bosses cut corners everywhere, cheap mulch that washed away with the first rain, dying plants sold at full price, quick patches where careful work was needed. I poured my heart into jobs where my employers only cared about speed and invoices. Watching those half-dead gardens crumble after a single season broke something in me. So, at 25, I took a terrifying leap. I emptied my savings, every last cent of $12,000, and started my own landscaping business. No reputation, no safety net, just me, an old Honda full of tools, and faith that if I worked hard enough, something beautiful would grow. That first year almost destroyed me. I worked 16-hour days, 7 days a week. Mornings were for clients, afternoons for installations, nights for paperwork. My back ached so badly I used bags of ice instead of pillows. My hands cracked and bled, but quitting never even crossed my mind. Slowly, word spread. One client led to another. People saw that I didn't just plant flowers, I built foundations. By 28, I could finally afford help. By 32, my client list filled months in advance, and my reputation for sustainable beauty had become my greatest resume. Then, one bright Saturday, I found her, the house. A weathered little cottage half hidden behind an overgrown hedge on the edge of town. From the front it looked dull, maybe even sad, but when I walked around back and saw that wide empty lot, my heart started racing. It wasn't just land. It was a blank canvas calling my name. I drained what little I'd saved for a down payment, signed the mortgage, and moved in with a borrowed lawnmower and a heart full of plans. That dirt patch became my masterpiece. I built winding stone paths that felt like secret trails, raised flower beds bursting with color, a tranquil pond edged with lilies, and a small fountain whose gentle burble became my favorite lullaby. I planted fruit trees whose blossoms painted the air every spring. Bit by bit, that place became something alive. It wasn't just a garden, it was a mirror of my soul. Every weekend, every lunch break, Every stolen hour went into it. I entered the county's landscape design competition on a whim and won second place. Standing there with that little trophy, dirt still clinging under my nails, I felt prouder than I ever had in my life. But the house wasn't truly mine yet. I still owed the bank, and that knowledge haunted me. So I made a vow. Every extra cent I earned would go into paying it off early. 9 years. 9 birthdays, 9 Christmases, 9 long years of sacrifice and self-denial. No vacations, no new clothes. My technician teased me that my car door looked held together by willpower, and he wasn't wrong. I lived frugally, ate homemade soup for weeks at a time, and when temptation whispered, "You deserve a treat," I thought instead, "I deserve my freedom." Really? One quiet Tuesday morning, the letter came. Paid in full. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at that phrase through tears. After 9 years, the house, the garden, the dream was completely mine. I laughed, cried, then hopped in my car and drove straight to the bakery downtown. Bought the fanciest chocolate cake in sight, and a bottle of wine I normally wouldn't even look at because of the price tag. I was going to my parents' house with news big enough to split the sky. When I arrived, my sister Melissa was already there. Melissa had always been complicated. The golden child who somehow always landed on her feet, even when she tripped over everyone else to do it. Her husband David lounged beside her at the kitchen table, sipping coffee like a man allergic to effort. Their twin boys, Connor and Tyler, 8 years old and overflowing with energy, raced toy cars down the hallway. I came in smiling, cake box in hand, my excitement bubbling over. "Guess what?" I said. "I did it. The house is officially mine. Paid off completely." I waited for cheers, hugs, something. But instead, Melissa rolled her eyes without looking up from her mug. "Well, it's about time," she said casually. Before I could respond, she continued. "We've been talking, and we think it makes the most sense for us to move in with you. The boys need space and that garden of yours. Perfect for them to play in." I blinked, my smile freezing in place. "Move in with me? It's really the logical solution," David added, leaning back like he was making a business proposal. His tone was confident, practiced, as if this decision had already been sealed without me. "You've got all that extra room and we've been paying rent to strangers when we could be keeping it in the family." My mother nodded approvingly. "Elena, honey, you know family comes first. You've got more space than you need and Melissa has those growing boys to think about." I felt the world tilting sideways. "But it's my house. I just finished paying for it." "Our house," Melissa corrected, her voice taking on that condescending tone she'd used since we were kids. "Family property belongs to the family. You wouldn't have been able to buy it in the first place, without all the help Mom and Dad gave you over the years." "Help? What help?" "I'd bought my own car, paid for my own college, built my own business from nothing. The only thing they'd ever given me was criticism and doubt." My father leaned forward using his most reasonable voice. "Look, Elena, you're being selfish. You've got a beautiful house, and all that yard space is going to waste. Melissa's family needs room to grow. It just makes sense they weren't asking. They were informing me." As I sat there listening to them casually plan out which bedrooms the boys would take, where they'd put their furniture, how they'd reorganize my garden to be more kid-friendly, I felt something cold and hard settle in my chest. "The vegetable garden can go," Melissa said, gesturing dismissively. "The boys need somewhere to put a swing set, and all those flower beds are kind of impractical, don't you think? Maybe we could simplify things. Make it more of a regular lawn. 9 years of careful planning, of selecting plants that would bloom in succession throughout the seasons, of creating an ecosystem that supported local wildlife, and she wanted to turn it into a regular lawn." I stood up so abruptly that my chair scraped against the floor. No. The room went quiet. "This is my house. Every brick, every plant, every inch of that garden represents 9 years of my life. You don't get to just move in and rearrange everything because it's convenient for you." My mother's face went tight. "Elena Marie, that's no way to talk about family." "Family!" The word tasted bitter. Where was my family when I was working 7 days a week to build my business? Where was my family when I was eating ramen every night so I could make double mortgage payments? You want to talk about family? Family doesn't try to steal your life's work. I left that cake sitting on their kitchen table and drove home in a rage that made my hands shake on the steering wheel. But the phone calls started that same night. My mother guilt-tripping me about abandoning family in their time of need. My father explaining in his patient voice why I was being unreasonable and short-sighted. Relatives I hadn't heard from in years suddenly called to tell me what a disappointment I was, how selfish I'd become. "What's wrong with you?" my cousin Janet asked during one particularly brutal call. "They're not asking for much, just a place to stay until they get back on their feet." But Ike knew Melissa. Getting back on her feet wasn't the goal. Taking over my life was. For 2 weeks, the pressure was relentless. Text messages, voicemails, unexpected visits where my family would show up at my door and try to guilt their way inside. I started to doubt myself. Was I being unreasonable? Was he too selfish? Had I become so focused on protecting what was mine that I'd lost sight of what really mattered? And then on a Saturday morning, I woke up to the sound of voices in my driveway. I pulled back the bedroom curtains and felt my blood turn to ice. There was a moving truck parked at the curb. David was directing 2 movers toward my front door, clipboard in hand. Melissa was standing on my porch, keys in her hand, keys that looked suspiciously like the spare set I'd given them for emergencies. I threw on clothes and stormed outside, my heart hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. "What do you think you're doing?" Melissa turned to me with that familiar, condescending smile. "We decided not to wait anymore. You're clearly not thinking straight, so we're just going to move in and let you adjust to the idea. You'll see how much better this is for everyone once we're all settled." The movers paused, looking between us uncertainly. One of them, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, set down the box he was carrying. "Ma'am," he said to me, "is this your house?" "Yes, this is my house, my property, and these people do not have permission to be here." "We're family," David protested. "She's just being dramatic." I walked straight up to the moving truck driver, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. "This is private property. These people are attempting to move into my home without permission. If they don't leave immediately, I'm calling the police." There was a moment of perfect silence. Even Melissa's usual bravado wavered, as she realized I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't going to back down, apologize, or try to find a compromise. I was done. "You have 5 minutes to get off my property," I said loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "After that, I'm calling 911 for trespassing." The movers were already loading boxes back into the truck before I finished speaking. David's face had gone pale, and Melissa was sputtering something about how I'd regret this, how my family would remember how I'd treated them. But I was already walking back toward my house, back toward my garden, back toward the life I'd built with my own 2 hands, and refused to hand over to anyone. I stood in my backyard that afternoon, surrounded by the flowers I'd planted, the trees I'd nurtured, the stone pathways I'd laid with my own hands. For the first time in 2 weeks, I could breathe again. My phone rang constantly for the next few days. My mother crying about how I'd torn the family apart. My father coldly informing me that I was no longer welcome at family gatherings. Melissa alternating between rage and tears, telling me I'd destroyed mine a few's lives. But here's what I realized. Standing in my garden with the afternoon sun warming my face, boundaries aren't just about keeping what's yours. They're about protecting your own worth when everyone else refuses to acknowledge it. I had spent my entire life building something beautiful, something meaningful, something that reflected every ounce of passion and dedication I possessed. And they'd wanted to take it, reshape it, turn it into something ordinary because it was convenient for them. The hardest part wasn't standing up to them. The hardest part was accepting that the people who were supposed to love and support me had been perfectly willing to steal my dreams if it served their purposes. 6 months later, I still live alone in my little house with my extraordinary garden. The silence from my family was difficult at first, but it's been replaced by something much more valuable. Peace. The knowledge that what I've built belongs to me and no one can take it away. Sometimes protecting what you've worked for means disappointing people who think they're entitled to it. Have you ever had to draw a line in the sand with family or friends who wanted to take credit for your success? Drop your story in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, smash that like button and subscribe for more tales of people who refuse to let others walk all over them. And remember, what you build with your own hands is yours too.